Hey everybody, welcome to Colin's Creatures. Today I make Jay's exotic reptiles and plants, and this is a wild type crested gecko. Crested geckos were first discovered in 1866 by a French scientist, and they were actually thought to have been extinct, not because they were known to be extinct, but mostly because people didn't see them for over a century. But then in 1994, a single specimen was discovered on the Isle of Pines in New Caledonia, and several subsequently followed. Several were taken to the United States under permit and were bred, and now all of the captive crested geckos in the United States are descendants from these wild crested geckos. And now they are the 8th most popular reptile in the world. Now let's talk a little bit about the natural history of crested geckos. Their scientific name is Coralophus ciliatus, as they are no longer part of the Rhacodactylus genus. They are from the rainforests of the islands of New Caledonia, which is a French territory off the coast of Australia. They were rediscovered on Pine Island, which is one of many islands in New Caledonia. They are arboreal, meaning they spend most of the time in the trees, and they are nocturnal, as their eyes are made to help them see better in the dark, but in the wild they're often seen out during the day. Like most arboreal geckos, crested geckos have sticky toe pads, which have tiny little hairs on them called setae, and these setae help them climb on many different surfaces, even glass. And they can also climb in many dimensions, even upside down. And in the wild, crested geckos are omnivores and will eat fruit, nectar, pollen, and insects. As you can expect, the normal or wild type crested gecko looks different than all of the morphs that are commonplace in captivity. So let's bring in the caretaker of this gecko, Jay, to talk about their phenotype or physical appearance. Thanks, Jay, for having me in your store and allowing me to interact with this really cool gecko.
Oh, you're very welcome. So the wild type crested geckos differs from what we have in captivity now today. So a lot of the differences, they have almost like a pinstripe on their back, in a sense. It's almost like a little fairy type right on top of it. The coloring is also a lot different. The coloring is like a brownish black color with hints of like orange, as you can see on the pinstripe. Also, they do tend to have a little bit of spots. It's ironically that the Dalmatian trait, it's in the wild type crested geckos. Also, towards the tail, they tend to have a little bit more pinstripey, like fur on them. They tend to have a little bit, it almost looks like tech shed, but it's actually like little hints of like, almost like piebald in a way. Other than that, their stuff that you can't see is the type of the egg. The egg tends to be a little harder. We don't know if we lost that in captivity, just overbreeding over time. But the original wild cuts, the one that are closer to the wild types, tend to have a harder shell.
So, Jay, how long have you had this guy?
So he's been in my possession for 18 years.
Wow.
Before that, I don't know how long the breeder before had it, but it was quite a while. So he's pretty old man right now.
And do you think this is a wild caught one, or one that's been bred, like it's an F1?
So in my belief, I do believe he is a wild caught one, but he is pretty old, so it is a possibility that it is an F1.
And are you breeding these guys? Are you actively breeding wild types?
We are. We actually have one of the F3s here.
Oh, good that. Extinction, the normal Crested Gecko is pretty cool. You don't get to see them a lot, and I think it's really important that we talk about them because there's so many captive morphs that we have that we kind of forget what the normal appearance of these geckos look like.
Another good thing about breeding these geckos is to be able to introduce new bloodlines into assisting gene pools.
So once again, I'd like to thank Jay for allowing me to use his wild type Crested Geckos in my video. So thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and I will see you next time on Colin's Creatures.